The deadline in this sector for voluntary presentation at the experimental center is 6 o'clock.
You're supposed to be an artist. Use your imagination.
Oh, thanks a lot. I'm all out.
What's happening, everybody? Shelton J, Think About It Radio. Another Monday, another Monday show. I got a special guest with me tonight. My homeboy, my man 50 grand, Mr. Businessman Extraordinaire, Mr. Terrill Mcnealy, and he's going to be on the line with me, chopping it up tonight on some of these economic issues and solutions, if you will. Mr. McNealy, how you doing tonight, my brother?
That's it. That's exactly
Shelton J, bro, how you doing, man? It's good to be here. I'm doing fine, man. You know, just caught up in the concrete struggle like the rest of us, you know.
Bob and weave, brother. Bob and weave.
Understood. Good thing you're doing here, man. Good topic. You know, I think one of the largest things that's next for our race, you know, we start talking about how the world is changing and what's next for us. You know, how can we make it to that next level of life within family, building kingdom. You know, we started talking about wealth, you know, words that have yet to be truly defined within our families, you know, within our actual futures. So, you know, we need to start trying to find better ways, our generation right now, to start to generate. You know, we don't have to acquire it in as much, given that we're already playing the ball, you know, playing the game from behind, save ball, but we have to start acquiring the tools to put into place to start to resemble wealth in our families and in our bloodlines, you know, and true definitions of the words that we would use in conversations like this.
But as you said, though, a lot of times within families, those kind of conversations don't happen. Economics and things of that nature, finance, credit, and stuff. Everybody I talk to a lot of people that I talk to, they say, "I wish I knew now." You know, I wish I knew then what I know now, and they wish they had that kind of conversation. But a lot of times, though, the people that are raising them, they didn't have those kind of conversations. So it wasn't just like etched in stone, this is what we did. You know, you have to make a conscientious choice and you know, toward economic, financial, credit conversations, because on the surface, sometimes the people, they're boring. So who wants to sit down at a dinner table, long day? Let's have a conversation about budgeting. Let's have a conversation about savings. You know, a lot of times those kind of conversations just don't even get had. And then the kid gets older and older, and now they have to face it. Oh, my gosh, this thing is real. This economics is real. Because they weren't taught. Then now they're mad at mom and dad because they basically they think they set them up for failure. But it's just they didn't take the time to have a conversation, unfortunately.
No,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I mean, no, you're right. And, you know, first, that's where, whether we truly understand it, truly believe it or not, that's where opportunities like the one you're providing is really important. You know, given an opportunity to just be on the air. The file is out there of the topic being discussed amongst working class citizens who are trying to figure out amongst each other. And so putting it out there is keen in what we're talking about and in the whole subject matter, period. But one of the biggest pieces to that is there is, and I can't take it a year, but it's quite a few years old. And I think, you know, it could have been a Cheerios commercial, man. You know, understand what I'm saying? Something simple, Raisin Bran, et cetera, General Mills. But what happened with the theme on this particular commercial was they happened to be black, but it was a man sitting down at like a breakfast counter at home. You could tell it was in the morning, like before they went to work in school. And I think it was a son, you know, approximately 7 through 9 years old, et cetera, on the opposite side of the counter. And they were quietly, very quietly, eating their breakfast, you know, with a bowl of cereal or whatever. And I think the box of cereal was on the counter. But the caption and any narration, because it was just straight silent for the first 20, 25 seconds of the commercial. But then, of course, in the last 5 to 10 seconds, you know, they tried to highlight the importance of not only that they were together eating breakfast, but some of the things that could have been discussed at that moment between father and son became the highlight of this commercial. So it's almost like a lost opportunity for that father to drop simple nuggets of knowledge on his son as they do an everyday simple routine, eat breakfast together before they leave that house. You see, so I think that's like what you're saying. We have to not only acquire the knowledge as parents and as men and as women and as, providers, caregivers, and et cetera within these families. We have to acquire that knowledge, and we have to be in position to teach that knowledge, and then we have to follow through.
Execute. With
our actions and activity to make sure that damn pupil is learning. You understand?
Yes.
Not just like any other school subject, school curriculum. They ass ain't gonna be 100% understood. The motherfucker might be. I'm sorry. I apologize for the language. I bleep that out. But
I can't, man. We lie.
I
can't.
But kid may be coming in at 75%, 77%. You understand? I had to speak to my daughter here recently over her spring break. As an active divorced parent, it's important, like we say, practicing what we preach.
Right.
Having these conversations with her. She stated that her mother was upset with her slightly, but was very understanding of her because she didn't have straight A's on this particular report card. She had quite a few B's. And I think the conversation between the mother to the daughter was, at least they're not C's. I see your energy. Let's pick this up, though. Let's pick this up, though, because I know you're as good as A's. So one of the things I had to help my daughter understand, as a father and an intelligent in my right father, because at her grade level, third, fourth grade, and going up for me into high school, I actually made good grades, and I was somewhat cool in my neighborhood, etc. I didn't miss anything because I was smart. I didn't lose anything. I wasn't embarrassed to be smart.
Right.
So in our community, sometimes that's a stigma.
That's a scarlet letter. You get it called nerd, man. I got called nerd all the time growing up.
Dude, and that's where it's important.
But that was just because I had glasses, brother, because I wasn't making straight A's. I went to making straight A's and went to high school and started making straight F's because I thought it was cool to flunk for some dumb reason. But
wearing glasses may very well have been one point of them calling you, but I'm 100% certain that wasn't 100% of the reason.
Say, man. Say, bro.
Hey, we're moving on.
You trying to clown me. Y'all hear that? Y'all hear that, America? All on the show. I invited this brother on to have something positive to say, and he clowned me and said I got called a nerd because I had corduroys and some tennis shoes on.
Yeah. I just stated I was intelligent, so clearly a parapro kid or the plain white kid contributed into the label in which you wore back then.
Yeah, like school in summertime, no class.
But I think the conversation with her and I, it was that the B's at least mean you're putting forth enough energy to care about your grades. And as a parent, that's what your mother's trying to say. And as a parent, as a father, that's what I want to say. Thank you for putting forth enough energy to be able to acquire the B, and yes, not a C or lower, but that flip side of the coin. Because I am your parent and I'm feeding you knowledge, which I know some parents do lack that like talk about the commercial. Those all small, little quiet little moments, man, in which you can just simply, whether they want to hear it or not, whether they cap an attitude, it's time for us to push the emotion of the pupil to the side and put the curriculum first. So, I took that moment with these things in mind with my child to let her know. Because I am your father and your mother is a good parent and you're a smart kid, you're going to bring home an A real soon. Now, we are saying to you, you're not in trouble for your B, but we're also saying to you, the B is not the last resort for you. You will put in enough energy to acquire the A again. You're going to be on A level, so now you understand A level deserves an attention to detail, the energy, that follow through all 6 weeks long to maintain and acquire that A. So trying to help her gain not only just skills and understanding, but using my time as a divorced parent, not seeing my child daily, using my time. So I'm going to go back and use that commercial that I saw years ago to thrust me into being a better father and a better teacher. And so now one subject, we start with the grades. And as your show would deem, as we go and as they get older, as your son age and he's starting to go into teenage, adolescence rather, becoming probably taking his first little dipping his toe into the workforce, you understand, as he gets a little 15, 16, 17, whatever.
Exactly.
Starting to understand where money, finances, the value of working for the dollar, the sweat dropped versus the coin earned per drop. You start teaching them that at that age. And then you start seeing them flourish and be that successful adult, be that successful, you know what I mean?
My son is an authorized user on my credit card right now because I've seen how other people do it, other cultures and everything do it, and so it's like, why not do that? Why not put him on there? So by the time he gets to be a particular age where he's applying for things or use his credit, he already has a great credit score. He already has an established history rather than have to start over, starting from the beginning, starting with a high interest rate. So you're basically starting off in a hole from the word go because you haven't put those things in place to establish your child doing something that you're going to do anyway. So I would encourage a lot of parents out here, if you have a credit card, put them on as authorized user. You don't have to have them. They don't have to have a card. They don't have to have a card sent to them. They don't even have to know they're an authorized user on the account. But that's just something that you add into the table, but kind of like catapult, kind of like the jump on what you were saying, taking those opportunities, those Cheerio at the table moments, right? Taking those opportunities to sit and have those conversations, put them on as authorized user, let them know the benefits of what you're doing. Just have the conversation because again, we make time for what we want to make time for. So we don't make time to have these conversations with our children, or even adults, or even our husband or wife with these conversations. We don't want to do them because we don't take the time. It's not that it's not enough time to do it. It's just a matter of taking the time to have those conversations if you deem that as important.
Correct.
Because too many kids are finding out the critical lessons once they become adults. And then it becomes like a shock. Oh, my gosh, I did not know this. Mama, Daddy, why didn't you tell me? Oh, I was busy working. Oh, I was busy doing whatever. I felt like you were going to figure that out on your own. But figuring it out on your own, your results may not be too well.
And I think in moments like this, we probably, would take it slightly easier on mom and daddy than we should. Because I think one of the huge pieces of it, man, that we miss, mom and daddy may not know. The largest, the problematic issue within our race when it pertains to wealth is that we were stripped of such back when it comes from being the kings and queens of Africa and et cetera, coming to being American black, and then being behind in history to create wealth for our generations as American blacks, because our first so many odd triple digits, long as years here within this country,
quite a few,
would treat us less than a human being. So, of course, that's true. But I think as we go, we forget the lack of knowledge that our people perish from is still real.
Definitely.
We think because all of this, the world has changed and technology is abundant and our kids are smarter, they're wiser, but they're weaker, first and foremost. But then also, and my daughter said she made a very good point. Now, it was on another subject. Granted, she's 9 going into 10, but her she's advanced. You understand? So you can call her 12, 13, 14 at these moments. Plus television and radio. These are the things push these kids' mind to a limit parents would not imagine. So why not push them as a parent has been my motto for years as well. But she stated something, man, on another subject, but she said she had a conversation with the friends of her age group, her peers, about a particular subject. As a matter of fact, buddy, we were talking about racism, the word racism, and what it would mean to, young women, within her little circle. And she stated that she have not had